Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, where we chat with industry leaders and get their take on the challenges facing the market. And maybe we'll have a little fun along the way.
On this week's episode of the Marketing Stir, Brian Phillips, Director of Product Marketing at HP, joins Ajay and Vincent to discuss the importance of authenticity, how HP measures success in marketing campaigns, and how to keep up with the fast-paced tech industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Stir. I am your host, your happy host, Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products here at Stirista. We've got a great episode today. I'm really excited. Let's talk about Stirista just for a few seconds. That's all. We are a marketing technology company. We own our own business-to-business data, business consumer data. We also have the technology to help push out to that data to help you get new customers. Email marketing, display, connected TV. Email me, vincent@stirista.com. Boy, are you using that email address. Thank you. That means you're listening. Is it always for what I intended? It is not, but that is okay because you're listening and we appreciate it. Oh, we've got a lot to catch up on because I feel like because it's the summertime, we haven't been doing a lot of episodes, but what's constant is me and also my co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he's got another haircut since I last saw him, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
Hey Vincent, no, that would be way too soon for me to get a haircut. So remember, I'm 4 weeks guy.
You are, but it looks tight. It looks good. You know, you're soon making your an adventure here to New York City.
Yep, I'm actually going to be staying in downtown this time, which is I don't know if that's happened in like 5 years. So it's a lucky day.
It is my lucky day. You're right here downtown. As many people who listen to the podcast know, you are the king of Times Square. You're the only person I know who comes in, who's been to Times Square and says, I want to stay there. You would love you some Times Square. You are a big M&M store fan, this guy.
Yep, shout out to Refinery Rooftop.
Yeah, one of your favorites. They are not a sponsor of the show. I'm sure they don't listen to it, or else we maybe get a free drink here and there, but who knows? But it is good I'm back, AJ. If you're watching us on YouTube, which no one really does, why would you watch a business podcast on YouTube? But you know, some of you do. I'm coming back. I got a nice tan. It was just on family vacation in Portugal. It was awesome. I celebrated my birthday there. My 47th birthday. That's the first bone I got to pick with you, AJ. My birthday was last Friday, buddy. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I remember celebrating a few of yours, but hey, here we are, right?
Damn. Now I feel bad about this.
You should.
For some reason, this is actually a true story. Facebook no longer notifies me of people's birthdays, so I have lost track of everyone's birthday.
You should really just know it by heart, but hey, it's okay. I didn't expect you to know it by heart. You have a lot of employees here, but yeah, you did miss it, so
Happy belated birthday.
thank you.
I was actually just saving it till we met in person.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to ask our guest if he believes that, but I don't think he's going to believe that. But hey, you just have to make it up to me in New York. Maybe a drink. We'll have some fun. But yeah, other than that, it's great. Here's my other bone to pick. Not a bone. It's not a bone. It's like something that's a peeve, right? So recently, I've gone to some conferences where there's been speed dating. You know, the speed dating. Basically, I guess they probably pay a lot of these CMOs, and we speak to CMOs all the time in the podcast, to speed date. They handpick you, AJ. They just kind of say, hey, I want to talk to Stirista. I want to go. I'm sure they're getting their conference paid for or something. I want you. And we had great meetings. This happened twice at this particular conference. We sit down, great. Get back to me, buddy. And someone from my team or myself will follow up multiple times. Nothing. You know, I'm glad I'm not dating in real life anymore because I'm a happily married man. But like it's crazy. I don't know if that's maybe it doesn't happen to you, AJ. You're the CEO of a company, but it happens to some people like us. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem is that most of the matchmaking services, it feels like people are there for just to be there versus actually being interested in the product. So I'm not a huge fan of it, as you know. But yeah, last time I did those matchmaking events, they did feel like they were genuinely interested. So maybe you did something after to piss them off.
I doubt it. Me, I would never. I'm an angel. I really am. I know. I didn't. It was just like those things. That it was just on top of my mind. That bothers me. But what doesn't bother me, and what I'm a huge fan of, is our next guest, because I'm also a fan of particular products that they represent. We'll talk about that in a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guest for you today. One of those, again, we say it sometimes in the podcast. Feel like I've known this guy forever. We've never met in person. We will change that one day. But ladies and gentlemen, the director of product marketing at HP, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Phillips. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, not too much. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you bringing me onto the show.
Brian, pleasure to have you. First off, Brian, was AJ genuine? He forgot my birthday, didn't he?
I am sure he was genuine and he thinks that he meant to, even if he didn't. So I think somehow you're both right.
Okay, I'll take
I
it.
like Brian.
Brian's the best. What a great guest. We love Brian. What do you think about what I mentioned about that speed dating? What is your thoughts about that? You've ever been in a situation like that? Have you ever been part of that in your title?
I haven't done one of those in like a business context, but it does feel like I don't know. It feels like ghosting has somehow become more prevalent. I don't know whether, again, I've been married for 26 years, so I haven't dated in a long time, but I hear stories or talking to friends of mine who are looking for jobs, right? Who are out there and the number who tell me that they'll go through rounds of interviews, detailed interviews and doing projects and all that. And then they'll just never hear anything again.
That's crazy.
It's wild to me. And I wonder if it's like some broader, like societal type thing of like, if somehow people feel okay just never following up in a way that they maybe wouldn't have 10 or 20 years ago. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's crazy. So, yeah, because it's almost like, just tell me no. If you're not interested, just tell me no. It's not a big deal. We're still friends. All good. But talk to us about your role in the organization, your day to day, what you're doing there.
Yeah, it is funny because you mean you say you work at HP and it's either, hey, can you help me with an issue with my laptop? Or hey, I got this question about a printer. But it is such a huge company. I mean, it's an enormous company, right? And so I actually am part of a division we call hybrid systems. Basically, big chunk of it is collaboration. So I came from a company called Poly, and then previous to that, a company called Polycom. And so if you think back, if you remember, especially back in the day, it seemed like every conference table had like this triangle-shaped conference phone, sometimes called the spider phone or the spaceship. That was called a sound station. That's how Polycom started, like way back in the late 80s. I started there about 20 years ago. And so it was conference phones and video conferencing. And then we merged with another company. It became headsets. We rebranded as Poly. And then we were acquired by HP. We're coming up on almost 3 years because, right, collaboration, especially, right, you think immediately post COVID, and suddenly you've got people at home, you got people coming back to the office. Still a thing, right? People still talking about return to the office and what does that mean? And a lot of those conversations ongoing, right? And so collaborations become so important. And so HP wanted to get a much more robust kind of footprint in the collaboration space. And so we were acquired. So we're now essentially at the collaboration product line within HP is kind of where I come from. So that's specifically what I work on. And no, I'm so sorry I can't help you with your laptop troubles. I don't know.
That was going to be the next question, but no, I know this is a poly right here. I love it. This is a poly. This is for again the audience if they're not
Like it's the
watching,
same
but
one I'm using. Yeah.
oh yeah, that's this is the one I walk around. This is my walking around. This is my daily call one. It's great. So it's kind of like there's not every day you're talking to someone where you use the products. I've only had that a few times on the podcast, so I love that, Brian. Talk to us about. We're going to get into some of the how it was working at it, how it is with HP, the support you get. But let's go back to the basics. How did you get started in marketing?
I'm I'm one of those probably unusual ones who actually got like a marketing degree and then worked in market. It seems like most everybody, right? And it's natural. You graduated the degree in something, and then you start to work and you start to figure out then what you're actually good at, what you actually like, and you end up pivoting in some other direction. But I'm one of those weird ones who actually got like a marketing degree, but again, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with it, right? And so I ended up getting a job at an industry analyst firm called Frost and Sullivan. So they do a lot of tracking and forecasting of, especially in tech, a lot of different segments of tech. And I was born and raised in the Bay Area in California. And so when I came back after college and I'm looking around for jobs, and I ended up landing this job at this industry analyst firm, Frost and Sullivan. It was a great job right out of college because you're doing basically research and analysis on all these different segments of tech. And so I kind of use that as my starting point to sort of figure out like, well, what do I really like want to do with this marketing degree? And one of the things that I noticed is as I was researching these different segments of technology and the kind of the up and coming trends and having conversations with companies that were in those markets, and I kept talking to these people that were had these product marketing titles, like so that's something I was taught in school. Like to me, marketing was it was advertising or it was demand gen or it was sometimes market research, but product marketing was kind of this new concept to me as this person right out of school in like the late 90s, right? And so as I was talking to folks more, I kind of started to zero in on, what, I think that's what I want to do. So I had a couple other stints at other companies doing like competitive analysis and other industry analyst stuff before then decided to make that hard pivot into product marketing. It's what I've been doing ever since.
And Brian, how do you make HP's complex project portfolio more approachable?
Oh boy, it's challenging. It is. I mean, can you think of this huge HP, and then we've got these collaboration products as part of this poly portfolio. But even within that, there is so much complexity. It's really, really tough. And then, right, you start to layer on being part of HP and how do you, I mean, not only how do you make sense of this complex portfolio in and of itself, but then how do you make it make sense in a broader HP context as people are looking at this bigger kind of set of technology they're buying. It's really, really tough. One of the things that we're doing to help cut through the noise a little bit and showcase our differentiation is we've been more and more focused on kind of experiential marketing. Like, how can we help people understand these experiences that we're trying to deliver? And so much of what we do is trying to deliver better video and audio experiences, right? So whether people at home, they're in the office, or in a meeting room, they're getting a good experience. So how do we, as customers are considering our solutions and we're thinking about how do we actually market these out, how can we, as much as possible, bring the experience to them? If doing kind of demo videos, doing other kinds of tools to help give people a sense of the experience. It's actually been it's been kind of interesting of the different videos we produce, because obviously we do some of the slick high production values videos and then other like how-to videos and things like that. And then we'll do kind of more demo or experiential videos. And when you look at those different categories of videos, the ones that get the most engagement are the ones that are actually showing just how it works, right? But we also, even among that, we got to be, I don't know, a little bit careful, I think, in how we execute on them, because we've also found, it feels like the minute it smells like marketing, people sort of tune it out. Like, oh, it's just, that's a marketing video. Like, is that real stuff? So we're kind of careful to try to make them as just real and authentic as we can, right? Like, literally, you can go out on YouTube and find videos of me and a bunch of videos demoing poly products. Just, hey, I'm Brian with HP, and we just released this cool new feature that does a new kind of auto framing of people in meeting rooms. Let me show you how it actually works in real meetings. Then we like actually show it. And those are the types of videos that get the highest engagement, right? As soon as it feels like we actually did a set of these that were real demos, but we used actors because right there was a push to like, well, we need higher production values, we need to use actors instead of employees, but it just didn't feel the same. Like you could tell they were actors, right? And it just, it starts to smell like marketing. So but that's a lot of where our emphasis has been, and a lot of where we're trying to cut through that noise and take complex things and make them simple, is bring it down to the level of here's the experience. When you're as an IT decision maker, you're buying this stuff, you're deploying it out to your customers. This is kind of experience they're going to get. It's what gets them interested, and then we can bring them in and have the more detailed discussions and kind of work through a lot of the complexities and challenges of their own environments.
And given how big HP is, as you mentioned, how do you kind of measure what is success look like?
Oh, yeah, it's a never-ending challenge. I feel like, especially in product marketing, I think we are always challenged because everybody, we always want metrics, right? We all want to be able to measure this, and trying to, especially in the product marketing side, define a set of metrics and measurables and how are we really achieving success gets really challenging. In a broader context, I think a lot of it, especially as becoming part of the bigger HP, um, does become a combo of not only in our own little world with our collaboration products and measuring the effectiveness of the campaigns and marketing qualified leads and conversion rates and all that, but doing that then on another layer in the context of the bigger picture HP. Obviously, one of the reason that HP bought us is because they wanted the stronger set of collaboration solutions to complement the overall HP solutions. And the benefit for us working specifically on this, the product line of this company that got acquired is how do we leverage the HP machine for more success? And so that's where I think there's another layer of metrics and measurables that sort of come in around how how many of the opportunities we're finding, the deals that we're closing are coming from maybe legacy HP customers that weren't Poly customers previously, and measuring out where we're getting better attach rates of, for example, headsets, right? Like we would love for every laptop that goes out to a big enterprise customer to come with a Poly branded headset, right? And so, right, how are we making progress along those lines? Those, I think, as part of the bigger HP machine, are really the measurables that are impacting is this whole effort successful or not of Poly becoming part of HP? And right, it's always challenging to get there, especially within a bigger company. But those are some of those measurable activities that are getting increasing focus now that we're coming up on 3 years in, and we really want to show those results and show success.
That's great information, Brian. I love what you said there before about when we just use real actors or actors, it just didn't work. And, for something like you're talking about, yeah, I think that really makes sense. I want to talk about what you said there, because with ever-changing technology, how are you deciding? You mentioned one of the features before, but how do you kind of determine what features you want to highlight in some of your campaigns?
It is changing and evolving over time. Things are moving fast in some ways in which we used to have a lot of really strong differentiated with our product lines. Like we could demo a feature that like nobody else has, nobody else is doing this. Well, a lot of competitors see that and they start to catch up, right? And so a lot of it is around, I think it's marrying up trends of what's happening in the industry. Especially, I think that the challenge right now is there's still companies coming out with new return to the office policies, return to the office mandates. So just reading something this last week about Microsoft is starting to roll out a big push for people being in office more. And so, but there's always going to be challenges of like people in the office, people who are at home, people who are fully remote, people who are on the road, right? Permanently, there's going to be this combo meal of people who are having to connect in together successfully. So kind of seeing what trends are happening in the industry and kind of mapping to those. Like one example, one of the things we saw as people started going back to the office after COVID was a lot of companies took COVID as an opportunity to do a refresh or sometimes a total overhaul of their workspaces and their conference rooms. And so they're like, okay, nobody's here. Well, now's the time if we're going to go invest a bunch of money in making sure that this is an effective workspace. Let's go do that. So then people start coming back. And one of the things that's been a trend kind of architecturally over the last several years is a lot more kind of openness and glass walls. And so you get these meeting rooms that sometimes have a whole wall of just glass, so that people can see. And so it doesn't feel like the closed off boardroom where there's like secret things happening in there, but it's more of an open and flowing and collaborative kind of environment. Well, what I think sometimes doesn't get realized, say on the architectural side or when you're designing spaces, is that glass walls wreak havoc on conference room technology. Like they cause tons of like echoing and reverberation because the sound's bouncing all over. Or one other thing that we saw is that we get these meetings, right? And so you got six people sitting around the conference table, you're having a meeting. We got this smart camera technology that auto frames based on who it sees, right? Well, so then you got a couple people outside the room having a conversation, and suddenly the camera's zooming out to show, and it's like, oh, well, they're not a part of our meeting. And so we start, right? And so we're looking at these trends and hearing what we're hearing from customers. And we came out with some features to help, make sure you're only tracking the people in the conference room. So it's like, oh, we got to get some video content spun up around this really quickly, right? To be able to let people know, hey, you've got this problem, we've got this solution, right? Let's get this spun up really quickly. Or another example, even during COVID, as we had a lot of folks at home, but still folks who had to be in the office, but oftentimes had to be masked up. So we ended up spinning up some really quick demo videos to show, hey, our smart camera tracking works even if you're wearing a mask. Because people like didn't believe it. They're like, oh, all this stuff is going to break if it can't see my face. It's like, no, with ours, we designed it so it doesn't have to see your whole face, right? So again, just trying to be nimble around creating content that is kind of like, skating to where the puck's going, I guess, right? As far as trends in office spaces, trends in collaboration, and just making sure that we are kind of talking to customers where they are. That's defining, I think, the bulk of the new again, marketing content that we're trying to generate to help them understand how we can uniquely solve their problems.
And that kind of leads me into this question here, Brian, because you yourself have been at Poly, was it 04, 05?
It was '05 when I started back at Polycom, yeah. So it's been a little, just hit 20 years.
So 20 years, and then so again, maybe we may not have time. We could be a whole other podcast on just this question, but touch upon some areas where you've seen it change. I was just, what has been some of the biggest changes? Obviously, the way people use it now, but some of those early years, what was the focus on, right? Some of the things people used, were people using headsets? And you mentioned some of the products in the middle of a conference call. How has some of the technology changed over that time?
Oh yeah. I think there have been a couple of big waves. One in particular, especially as we were getting like as we got into kind of those late, 2008 into like kind of 2012 is when video really started taking off. Before it was still most people were still just jumping on conference calls, right? Back in the day, just audio only calls. And then that's when, especially with bigger enterprises, started really investing more in video as a way of better connecting people, better connecting remote teams. It was mostly people who were kind of in offices connecting. So we've got our headquarters in New York and we got other offices in Chicago, Atlanta, and London. And right, we need to make sure they're all connecting from their meeting rooms. And then of course, as time goes on, we're starting to get, oh, well, now we've got webcams. And there does, even pre-COVID, we started to see a trend more towards people starting to work from home. So how are we connecting those people in? But that big video wave, I'd say from 2008 to 2015 is where that really took off for like meeting room to meeting room. Then you get a lot of the, well, now we're getting more people at home. We need to make sure it's easy to even like connect through a web browser, like make this simple, like, because one of the challenges was, you go back to 2010, and if you are a big enterprise and you want to deploy video conferencing, it was like a whole thing, man. It was, you had like a whole team within your IT org just focused on like setting it up, making it work. It was expensive and complex. Suddenly it's got like, we got to make this simpler and easier and more scalable as we're getting like 2015 to 2020. That's where you start to see like Zoom and like Microsoft with like, it was like Skype for Business, then it was Teams, and you start to see these like cloud video services come out. And then kind of the latest big wave that started kind of late 2019 was making the video rooms way more simple. I mean, yeah, go back in time like 10 years ago to outfit like your standard medium-sized conference room with a decent video conferencing setup that could accommodate like 8 people, and you're probably looking at $25,000, right? Well, now, starting kind of in 2019, 2020 into today, honestly, few $1,000s, you're good to go for like a medium-sized conference room. You can get a video bar that's got Teams or Zoom built in. You plop it on the display, you sign it into your Teams account, and you're kind of good to go. Like it is so much simpler and easier. And it also, right, it changes the way we market. And so it used to be big, expensive, complex that we're marketing to high level IT. Well, now a lot of it is pivoted to, we still have boatloads like big enterprise customers, but you've got any SMB that's out there, any small business, right? They need to be able to be successful with this stuff as well. And totally different kinds of channels, right? They're buying through like an Amazon or Newegg or other sites like that. They need a different type of like marketing materials to help them understand how this is going to meet their needs, which can be different from like that big enterprise customer who's trying to manage thousands of these things across the company, along with their headsets and all their other products. And so it really has evolved the way that we market this stuff, especially I think over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, we ourselves moved into a new space and have the exact same glass conference walls and open space you're describing. So it resonates with what you're saying and some of the issues we have run into as well.
It's been fascinating to see it all evolve. And like I said, I don't think we're not done yet. You would have thought, I don't know, you take me back to, I don't know, 2022 or something, right? And we're like coming out of COVID. Now we're kind of hitting return to the office. And if you had said, are we pretty much going to be settled out in the new norm by 2025? I would have been like, oh, yeah, probably by 2025. And I still feel like we're not. Again, I think you still see different companies that are trying to drive different policies. They're trying to balance between the benefits of people being together in the office, which is like a real intangible thing, right? With the benefits of the flexibility of having people located anywhere. I think you get a lot of larger companies that are pushing more return to the office, while you get smaller companies that are saying, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of the fact I can hire people from anywhere, and that gives me a huge advantage. It's I think it's still going around the way that we work, the styles that we work in, the the amount of time in the office versus at home, um, being hybrid versus being full-time remote. It's still so much change, and it's still so dynamic. And I don't think that change is going to slow down anytime soon. All we know is it's going to continue to be kind of a mix of all of them, but hasn't settled out.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. I think one of the things I struggle with, having moved into a brand new, very expensive retail space, is we have people coming in a hybrid schedule. So Mondays and Fridays, it feels like there should be better use of real estate than we're doing right now, but there's no real solution. But I'm sure over next several years, things will probably evolve, whether it's going back to a shared office concept or something. But one of my questions, this is a little bit general, but in terms of, since you've been in marketing for such a long time, what is one of the trends you're seeing from your point of view that seems overhyped right now?
A lot of the effectiveness that we used to see in a lot of social media marketing has waned, and I don't know that a lot of folks have quite caught up to it yet. And it's going to be very different based on segment. I'm coming very much from a right B2B kind of approach, right? But even there, like we going back in time several years ago, we saw a surprising amount of effectiveness from things like Facebook marketing. Like surprisingly, considering Facebook's always been much more of a consumer type of things, right? You're connected with friends and family, and even Facebook's evolving. I don't feel like Facebook is so much about connecting with friends and family anymore. It's about being connected in groups or other types of kind of affinity connections versus people like trying to get updates on, what, Aunt Mildred is doing. But we used to see a surprising amount of effectiveness even among B2B products in there that I think has waned quite a bit. I think LinkedIn has, even though it's very B2B oriented, it can be a challenge, I think, from an ROI standpoint, at least from what I've sort of seen in the past. So I think a lot has changed around social media marketing, and I don't have the answers to it, but I think it's changed and it's continuing to change. And I don't know if all marketers are caught up to the effectiveness or lack thereof sometimes of some of the social media activity.
Here's a fun question, Brian, that we ask all of our guests. A lot of questions are customized, but this one we make sure to ask everyone. So, what's a question or what's an email you get or LinkedIn message that gets you to respond to them? And what's a message that really annoys you?
I don't respond to many, I'll be honest. Get a lot of them on LinkedIn, especially. I don't respond to many. The ones I will, when they clearly understand who I am and what I do, and that does not have to come from personally knowing me. You can look at my LinkedIn profile and you can kind of figure out like what I would care about, but it's specifically talking to something I would care about and kind of be a pain point. And especially when I would be more tempted to respond is when they tie it back to some recent activity. So, for example, I was posting recently, we did a big product launch and we have a big collaboration industry trade show called InfoComm that happens every year. I was posting some stuff on LinkedIn and other social media about that. And so nobody's done this, but if somebody were to have sent me, say, a LinkedIn message that said, hey, saw you were just at InfoComm with your super exciting HP Dimension with Google Beam announcement. That looks really, really cool. And based on your profile, I imagine you're probably struggling with X. would be great to connect. I think we can help. That would be much more likely to get me to respond than just something more generic because they're like, they clearly research and they understand who I am and where I'm at. And so that's something that would get me to respond. On the flip side, will always get an ignore is like people who just, yeah, clearly have done no research into what I do when they're trying to kind of sell me stuff or sell me services that would clear. I get a surprising amount of companies that reach out about um, translation services. Like, I don't think there's anything in particular in my profile or my background that would suggest that I would be a big consumer translation services. Now, granted, I guess you could say, well, yeah, but you're a marketing guy. You have to translate stuff. Yeah, but I don't know. At a big company like HP, honestly, product marketing ain't doing at a big company like HP. Like if you kind of understand at a big company, translation, right? That's going to be generally regional marketing teams who are kind of in market, and they're going to be heading that up. The guy who's like the global product marketing guy is not a decision maker for translation services. So like, again, I feel like you haven't really researched. You don't really understand my industry. You don't really understand my company or what I do, and you're just trying to kind of firebomb emails. That's one that's definitely going to get an auto delete.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Brian, there's something you mentioned before you were talking about and your marketing, some of the markets. What are your markets, right? Who are you responsible for marketing to? Is it those enterprises? Are you marketing to those stores? I'm just curious to see who your audience is.
Our primary market is going to be mid to large size enterprise IT buyers, specifically ones that are dealing with collaboration technology. And so now there's two ends of that, though. I mean, we definitely are marketing to that buyer, trying to find that buyer, the person responsible for collaboration tech within their organizations, so we can, right, try to help them understand how we can solve their issues. But there's a big channel side to that as well. Virtually everything we sell is to the channel. So there's also a lot of work that goes into marketing to channels and through channels. So we got to have materials. We got to be able to talk to that end buyer, but we have to be able to talk through the channel and create stuff that's easy for them to talk to their customers, but even helping our channels understand because this space has gotten increasingly crowded. You go back in time, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and there were really just a few major players within kind of the collaboration space. It's really blown up as everybody kind of wants a piece of that pie. So the competitive environment's gotten so much more fierce. And so trying to help those channel partners understand, well, why should you be partnering with us? Why should you be selling our stuff? And right, just being acquired by HP adds a whole nother layer to that because we had a whole bunch of like really loyal poly partners, but now you become part of HP. And now channel partner programs start to fold into bigger HP partner programs. And like, well, what does that mean for me as a collaboration partner? And like, do I still want to sell the poly stuff? Do I go somewhere else? So trying to help them understand, no, this is even better for you that we're part of HP. And here's why. So there's the marketing to end customers, marketing to the partners through the partners, and then even on top of that, there definitely is that whole layer of more SMB. And there's been a lot of work going into, right? Even just content for Amazon, optimizing content for Amazon to be able to reach a lot of those SMB customers. That's kind of a smaller but growing part of the segment as well that we also need to balance out. So it's tough from a marketing standpoint because it's very different types of audiences with very different types of needs. And so it is definitely not a one size fits all, and it impacts how do we construct our value prop and our messaging. Like you can have one core set, but it's got to be tailored for those audiences, and it's definitely not a rinse and repeat. So it makes things very, very complex.
Challenging, maybe interesting as well, though. It's always changing. Because like, can people just come right to the site and buy it, or they have to go through? If I wanted to buy another headset, I think do I just go right to your site, Amazon? But I would imagine if I'm a larger organization, that's more of a custom process, right? Hey, we need 3,000 headsets and phone, and we need that, and so that's probably different, right? Is it?
It
Is
is
it?
different. Like if you're an individual or like a small business, you just need like a couple of headsets or maybe a video bar or two for your meeting room. You can easily just go to hp.com or you can go to Amazon and you can pick those up. But certainly when you're getting into, I'd say more than a few, that's where the vast majority of those buyers are going through one of our reseller partners because they can help them make sense of all the different options that are out there, us and others. And then again, hopefully that our marketing to those channel partners is helping give them the tools to help them communicate to those customers why we should be the ones they buy, but they can help them make sense of the overall landscape. A lot of times they're offering value added services, especially if you're looking at like, a bigger global enterprise who you want to be able to outfit technology around the globe that is consistent everywhere, that's supportable everywhere. A lot of times they're going on site and doing installs in conference rooms as well and setting everything up. And so there's a lot of value added services that channel partners provide, especially in some of those mid-sized to larger enterprises that makes them a key part of the whole kind of buyer's journey and all this.
That's awesome. No, I'm glad you clarified that. Now it makes more sense now because of the vast types of customers you have. This is great, Brian. You can tell that you are passionate about this company. It shines through. You've been there. You've seen a variety of different changes. This has been awesome. Let's end with an easier one today, right? Getting to know you on the personal side. Tell us about yourself. You said you grew up in the Bay Area. AJ used to live in the Bay Area for many years. But tell us where you are now, what you're up to, what are your hobbies, what are you doing on the weekends?
Yeah, so now we live just outside of Boulder, Colorado. So yeah, I grew up in the San Jose area, and we've been out here about 18 years. So I'd been at Polycom for a couple of years, and of course, doing collaboration stuff. Polycom and then Poly was always kind of very open to flexible working, remote working. We made the tools that made it all work, right? So I was able to move out here to Colorado, kind of escape the high housing prices of the Bay Area, and we've been out here for about 18 years. We're at this funny point in our life. I mean, when it comes to like kind of what do we do outside of work, we're at this weird point in our lives where now we're becoming these empty nesters. Like our oldest just graduated college and just this week signed an offer for his first like career style job. So he's moving out to the East Coast in another several weeks. So that's going to be a big change. Our youngest is a just started her sophomore year at Colorado State, which is about an hour away. So she's living up there. And now she's not just in the dorm, she's in an apartment. It's got like a year-long lease. And so like she ain't like just coming back during the summer, right? And so now it's like we've been in the quasi empty nester where like they're coming and going. And then now we're going to be like this permanent empty nester, but we're also kind of excited about that. We like to travel.
Mhm.
So, we don't have to pay for four people to travel anymore. Now we have to pay for two. We don't have to work around, spring breaks and summer holidays anymore. We can go during off time. So my wife and I are excited about that. So yeah, kind of entering this whole new exciting phase of life.
Yeah, and as are they too, young adults, right? A new job, are they coming to the New York or Boston area? Where's your
South Carolina is where my son
okay.
is going to be. So that's going to be different. So he's excited though. He's up for the challenge.
Yeah, young guy, go for it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and if you know what, if you do it for a couple of years and you decide, you know what, South Carolina may not be for me, then right, go to find something. You got some experience now. Go find something somewhere else. He's a smart guy, so
That's awesome.
yeah, he'll be all good. He's super excited about getting out there.
That's amazing. And then Brian, any closing thought you want to leave our audience? Anything that you read recently that you enjoyed, anything that you want to talk about marketing wise, some trends? The floor is yours.
Like I said, it's interesting times. I think with a lot of this return to the office, shifting kind of modes of reaching people, having tougher times, kind of reaching people. The ways you work through that. And I think the big thing that I've been focused on lately is how do we break through that and help get people excited about what we're doing? That's kind of the fundamental challenge we are all trying to overcome, right? How do we get people excited about what we can offer and how we can solve their problems? I talked about that experiential marketing before. That I think is going to continue to be a focus. I think, and you know, I think in some ways our products have lent themselves really well to that. It's one of the reasons that I've enjoyed doing product marketing for these products. It is stuff that's very like I'm using it, like I use it every day. It's not like this sort of esoteric, like backroom server stuff that like you
Mhm.
barely understand unless you're a technology expert. It's like real tangible stuff that we actually use. And so, frankly, it makes it pretty easy to do experiential marketing. It hasn't been Although there are areas in which it is a challenge. We've got some new technologies that are coming out that actually are much harder to capture on video. They're actually going to make it kind of a whole new set of challenges. But I think it can extend to a lot of things beyond just experiential products like this. I mean, even for some of our own stuff, we've been working through what are some ways that even for some of those more back end features, some of the more IT management type stuff, how do we show people the tangible benefits of this when they're not going to read the product slick that we put on the website. They're going to barely pay attention to the copy that we put on the website. They're right. How do we, in a quick 1 minute video, get them excited about some of the insights and analytics you can get from all of your headsets you're deploying everywhere across the globe, right? And so I think there's ways of doing that and taking that idea of sort of more experiential marketing and pivoting it to even stuff that you may not initially naturally think of as something that you can experience. I think there's ways we can bring any product or solution to life in a more engaging and kind of authentic way. I think it resonates with people and I think they'll pay attention to it. That again, in a way that just we've seen ourselves, they don't always with just the slick marketing video, but when you're doing just a really authentic kind of, let me show you this cool thing, it just grabs people in a different kind of way.
I love it. No, I think that's a great point. I know a lot of times I often get turned off on some like influencer marketing. If I'm looking at a product and then I see like a Real Housewife of New Jersey tell me about this product, I'm like, you're not using that product. Get out of here.
That is actually so funny, by the way. Just random side note. There was an effort a few years ago to do a similar type thing. You mentioned a Real Housewife. I'm not going to mention the particular show. It was one of the Real Housewives shows.
Oh yeah.
Actually, this was our kind of our social team at the time had actually done a contract with an influencer to use some of our stuff. So
Mhm.
showed it in her home office and all this. And it was just so funny because most people maybe couldn't tell, but like I could, like the thing, it's not even plugged in. I can
Oh my
tell it's
goodness.
not even plugged in. Now, maybe most people just don't notice and they go, okay. I still was a little bit of a mystery to me. How is this us helping reach the IT buyer? I don't know, but it was pretty funny with her there, sort of pretending to be on her video calls with a device that clearly isn't even connected. So yes, I think some of those things can get out of hand at
That's
times.
funny. Yeah, that was just a random guess, but I see that all the time where I'm like, you're not using it. That's awesome. Brian, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Brian Phillips, Director of Product Marketing at HP with the Poly products. Check out HP.com. There are very good products, someone who actually uses them. This has been amazing. That's Brian Phillips. I'm Vincent Petrofessa. That is Mr. AJ Gupta. Let's see what he does for me on my birthday. Stay tuned for another podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening to the Marketing Stir, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com.